Ms. Luciana Fontes de Vera, UNEP page Mauritius Profile Board, who is virtually with us. Mr. Eric Escher, Head of UNEP Finance Initiative, also on virtual board. Ms. Ozunmi Iti, Project Manager, Environment Department, UNIDO, also virtual with us. Mrs. Marie-Anne John Locus, Mrs. Abdul Rahman Ahmed, Permanent Secretaries of our Ministry, Mrs. Joya Mandari, the UN page Mauritius National Coordinator, heads of Apex private sector organizations, representatives of public and private sector organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. The Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperatives, Industrial Development Division, and the United Nations Partnership for Action on Green Economic UN page welcome you all today to the official launching of two reports, namely the Greening the SMEs, Improving SME Access to Green Finance, and the Industrial Waste Management Cost Structure Review prepared under the UN page initiative. To start with, I will call upon Mrs. Abdul Rahman Ahmed, Permanent Secretary of the Industrial Development Division of the Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperative, for her opening remarks.
All protocol observed. Good afternoon to all of you. It is my privilege to welcome you all today to the launching ceremony of two reports, namely the Greening SME Access to Green Finance report and the Industrial Waste Management Cost Structure Review report. I also wish to extend a special welcome to the team of United Nations and consultants who are presently virtually, as well as to all guests who are following the launching ceremony online. As you're aware, the two reports have been prepared under the United Nations Partnership for Action on Green Economy page initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperatives, the United Nations Environment Programme Finance Initiative, and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. Ladies and gentlemen, the reports that are being launched today are the fruits of rigorous and constant efforts put in by UN partners, the Ministry, and relevant stakeholders, including Business Mauritius. These two reports shed light on important issues such as SMEs' access to green finance and the cost structure of industrial waste management, with the objective to enhance the competitiveness of enterprises. I wish to point out that while drafting the reports, extensive consultations were held with key stakeholders, including financial institutions and developmental agencies. Site visits were also conducted in SMEs and manufacturing enterprises to capture primary data and hands-on information. In respect of the industrial waste management cost structure report study, a steering committee co-chaired by the Industrial Development Division of the Ministry and Business Mauritius was set up to oversee the smooth implementation thereof. It is noteworthy to mention that the reports have already been validated by stakeholders concerned prior to today's launching ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, how will today's event unfold? We are having eminent personalities of the UN agencies who will be addressing you with key messages. Honorable Minister Sunil Dotgola will deliver his keynote address. Finally, the team of consultants will present the salient findings and recommendations of both reports to you, audience. On behalf of the Ministry, I wish to reiterate my thanks to the UNEP Finance Initiative, UNIDO, and the Page Secretariat for having partnered with us on these two studies. Our appreciation also goes to the team of consultants who have worked relentlessly to bring these reports into fruition, namely Mr. Ruben Wambi of UNEP Finance Initiative, Dr. Simonita Tunesi, and Dr. Dinesh Swarup from UNIDO. We are also grateful to Mrs. Julia Bandari, UN Page Mauritius National Coordinator, who has been the focal point in organizing today's event. May I also put on record my earnest recognition to the officers of the Industrial Development and SMEs divisions for their dedication and effort in the successful completion of both reports. Last but not least, I wish to thank my Minister, Honorable Sunil Dadbola, for his unflinching support towards the Sustainable Industrial Development Agenda and for his esteemed guidance throughout the elaboration of the two reports. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
On COVID-19 recovery and its linkages to the economic recovery. And I think what we're seeing increasingly investments by governments going towards green sectors, such as in renewable energies, energy efficiency, green agriculture, and waste management. Now, in terms of the key messages from this report on greening SMEs and improving the access to green financing in Mauritius, in terms of the wider context, I think as we all know, access to finance remains a significant barrier to greening of SMEs. And this report really makes some timely contributions to assessing the state of finance by SMEs in Mauritius. It also makes some important policy recommendations. In terms of the three key messages, the first is that the Mauritian government has made commendable policy efforts to incentivize businesses to engage in sustainable practices. We see this, for example, in the 2020 to 2021 national budget and within the 10-year SME master plan. However, we also know that public financing alone cannot fully fund SME adoption of green practices. And so we need to see more innovative SME green financing coming from commercial lenders to complement this government support. The second key message is that SMEs face very significant barriers that inhibits them from accessing green finance. There are knowledge barriers, and 55% of SMEs interviewed for this study cited a lack of knowledge or expertise to execute green projects. A similar number cite a lack of awareness of what green financing may be available. There are financial barriers. 50% of the SMEs interviewed find difficulty to start and operate green projects due to the capital costs involved. And there are regulatory and policy barriers. SMEs really, they would appreciate green finance initiatives that are more specific to SMEs. Often they feel it's out of their depth, it's targeted at other actors. So following the effects of COVID-19, policy measures and incentives are certainly needed to help protect SMEs and their business activities, to scale up public investments that target green projects for SMEs. Policy and incentives are needed, and the most cited incentives are green subsidies and credit guarantees. We need to see improved SME sector awareness on the green finance commitments, and we need to see suitable risk analysis for SMEs by financiers. Standardized risk assessments suitable maybe for larger companies tends to overestimate default risk by the SMEs. I would like to finish up by just highlighting two very important projects as examples of best practice. The first one being the Green Recovery Activities Project, which has been initiated by the government and supported by the PAGE program. And so the Green Recovery Activities Project, launched by the government of Mauritius with technical assistance from PAGE and funding from the German government, was designed to support national economic recovery efforts from the COVID-19 impacts. It includes policy development incentives to promote a sustainable agro-food industry and the expansion of SMEs in the sector. So one very nice example. A second one would be the SUNREF program, which includes 3 banks This is a green finance project led by the Agence Française de Développement, the AFD, and supported by the EU. Through SUNREF, AFD is offering credit lines to 3 local banks that then on-lend to companies, including SMEs, for improving green energy and sustainable resource management. So this helps SMEs wishing to reduce their carbon footprint and seize opportunities in the energy transition. So with that, once again, my sincere thanks, including to the team who led the preparation of this report, who've already been cited, and to the Mauritian public actors, from the ministers on down, who are leading the uptake in this sector, and the economic actors involved, both the SMEs themselves and the banks and others who are trying to finance and otherwise enable them to develop green businesses, green business practice, and through that, the betterment of Mauritian society and community. Thank you. Back to you.
Come and address you all on behalf of UNIDO at the official launching ceremony of the PAGE UNEP Finance Initiative and UNIDO Industrial Waste Management Cost Structure Review Report, which mark another achievement of the commitment of Mauritius to transform its industrial sector and economy as a whole into an environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive one. Our thanks also go to the Industrial Development Division of the Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and cooperatives, Business Mauritius, and to the UN Resident Coordinator for the support and to ensure that we have successful cooperation that led up to this report. Of course, our sincere thanks are due to the expert team. Despite the constraints faced by the team in carrying out the assessment during the pandemic, activities planned were completed satisfactorily, and here we are today launching the report. This report was commissioned under the Partnership for Action on Green Economy, PAGE, and its activities respond to part of the recommendations of the PAGE 2017 Industrial Waste Assessment Study, primarily to integrate the management of industrial waste and municipal solid waste with similar characteristics, and to come up with a definition of the cost structure and the policy gaps in industrial waste management, which is a valuable resource. Consequently, this report aims to enable effective industrial solid waste management, contribute to the development of a circular economy, and hopefully enhance the competitiveness of Mauritian enterprises. Our thanks also are due to the 30 companies who participated in the survey that was necessary for the study and really contributed significantly to the achievement of the study's objectives. The results we have for the first time in Mauritius present the phases of solid waste management system in the country, associates a cost to each phase of solid waste management, and provides a clear and unique description of the structure of the cost for industrial waste management, both by the private sector and public sector. The review of the legislative and institutional frameworks for solid waste management also identified constraints impacting the recovery of valuable materials and, in the end, energy from industrial solid waste. Furthermore, the study estimates the hidden costs incurred by the public sector for the management of industrial waste, as well as the proportion of industrial waste management costs as a percentage of, an average percentage of turnover in manufacturing enterprises, and also provides some advice towards the introduction of extended producer responsibility schemes in Mauritius. Ladies and gentlemen, please also allow me to reiterate that this report is owned by the government of Mauritius from the early stages of its design and development and throughout its implementation and execution. The report has, as I mentioned, a number of recommendations. Possibly the most important one is the call to policymakers to review the overall mechanism for the cost management of industrial costing and the management of industrial solid waste. Efficient cost management of industrial solid waste collection and treatment would be essential as a building block of extended producer responsibility in the country and also help the drive towards circularity. Therefore, as UNIDO, we encourage the Industrial Development Division of the Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and cooperatives, not only those that have participated, but all of them, and Business Mauritius to consider moving forward with the implementation that is proposed. Finally, on behalf of UNIDO, I will also wish to seize this opportunity to reaffirm our full commitment to partnering with the Mauritian government and other stakeholders on their journey for accelerating inclusive and sustainable industrial development in the country for an economy that is environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive. More so now that to ensure also the sustainability of the good work done so far in collaboration with PAGE. With that, I wish a fruitful discussion and thank you for your attention.
Honorable Minister of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperatives, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperatives, Industrial Development Division, Chief and Deputy Director, Industrial Resource Efficiency Division, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, Head of United Nations Environment Program Finance Initiatives, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I believe the fact that I rushed from the airport and come here shows the importance of how we have to do things today. We have to be agile, we have to move out of recovery and move to sustainable development. Apparently, many countries have faced a problem where, because of the pandemic, we have gone back to the mode of emergency recovery that we have forgotten to focus on long-term development. So because PAGE and green recovery is one of those triggers of pushing us back in the long-term vision, I thought I couldn't miss this opportunity because it helps us to shift ourselves and refocus if we are to achieve the SDGs. So I think we have to run a marathon instead of walking the normal way, in a way to think out of the box, do things differently, be agile, and I'm sure we will achieve it, but we have to do things differently. So it's my pleasure to be among you to launch the two significant reports, Greening the SMEs, Improving SME Access to Green Finance, and the Industrial Waste Management. These reports, which address key challenges of our time, have been completed in collaboration with the UN and the Republic of Mauritius. And for me, actually, PAGE is a model example of how the UN should work together. Not in silos, but the number of agencies come together rather than each one doing things separately. So it's a model of one of those where you put 5 or 6 agencies to do one thing, and I think the impact is good. So I understand that the PAGE Mauritius has recently completed a study entitled Greening the SMEs, Improving Integration of Environmental Sustainability in the financing of SMEs in Mauritius. This study examines the current state of green finance frameworks, practices and structures relevant to the financial sector, and the potential scale-up of green financing for the SME sector, allowing increased access to green finance opportunities. Furthermore, it seeks to identify gaps thereof and thereafter propose a roadmap and action plan to scale up green financing for SMEs. I believe, really, especially for small island states, where we cannot count on ODA, where we've been categorized high income and therefore do not access certain types of funding. Thinking among ourselves on the best way to finance our development in a green way is the way to go, because we are going to have to really scratch our head and do it from within and look for alternative ways, innovative ways of financing. And I believe this, when successful, is going to be a good example of many other countries. And I know that actually sometimes when you think about it, someone was telling me that, for example, the green finance facility is like 4 times bigger than the ODA put together. So sometimes we lock ourselves in ODA and feel that we are strangled because ODA is not there. But because we did not open our horizon, we did not look elsewhere, we do not think critically, but there are other sources of financing and thinking into green financing is one of the ways in which we will beat the tide. I understand also the UNIDO industrial waste management cost structure is another one, another that we are launching today. The activities of the industrial waste management cost structure review study responds to the part of the recommendation of the industrial waste assessment in Mauritius report page, which was produced way in 2017 and which was conducted with the collaboration of the then industrial division of the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Consumer Protection, UNIDO and Business Mauritius. This was to enable an effective industrial solid waste management and facilitate the development of a circular economy, as well as enhance the competitiveness of the enterprise. The 2017 page report recommended to review the legislative institutional framework and integrate the flows of industrial waste with flows of municipal waste with similar characteristics for greater material recovery. Recommendations also include the setting up of a database of industrial waste, review the industrial waste audit procedures, and define the structure of the cost of industrial waste management, both by public and private sector. The study, therefore, was thus undertaken mainly, this study was taken mainly to have a clear understanding of the cost accounting system of industrial waste management for both the public and waste sector, as well as assess the share of cost solid waste management over the turnovers of manufacturing enterprises. The study was also expected to provide policy advice on the introduction of extended producer responsibility schemes and examine main constraints for their applications in Mauritius. Now, being a lay person in this business, I can only, imagine that setting in my own home, where we are teaching our own children to not waste. And it can be the way you deal with food, the way you deal with used clothes, the way you deal with so much. At the end of the day, we cry we don't have resources, but we have actually wasted resources by not managing what we use, what we consume. We don't recycle. Yesterday, I was on a virtual funeral of someone, and they were, one of the things that they were saying, this person, as an old mama, used to do very well. It's like the bed that one of her daughter slept on has gone on to grandchildren and other grandchildren and other grandchildren, because she doesn't throw it away, she doesn't do anything, she reuses and reuses and and keeps the financing of the home intact. Same with the bed sheets. She kept this bed sheet, they showed us on the screen how this bed sheets moved from this one to this one to this one. So many people wondered, they thought she's a rich woman because she actually managed to do what she was doing. But richness came out of how she was managing the resources. So I think these studies that we are doing, we cannot just study after study or think it's just a workshop. For Mauritius and any of our countries, waste management is a huge, 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 huge issue that if we well managed, we could actually recover all the resources that we think we are going to collect. Because it's like if you're collecting water in a basket that has holes, everything you are collecting is going through. It's the same thing if you cannot manage well your waste. It's like you are collecting all these things, but at the end of the day, it's going to waste, not knowing that you can actually reuse it. So in the context of today's times and challenges, the COVID-19 highlighted mutually reinforcing development challenges and specifies small island states in facing these challenges even more. You know that most of the challenges we have are even not born here. If you think even of waste, I've heard from our friends in UNODC telling us that now there is a problem about dumping in the oceans. That it's like a dumping crime. Like people come and actually put waste in your oceans. Things to watch that we never knew before. So climate and food security for the most vulnerable communities has increased poverty and inequality. Mauritius has stated it right to emerge from the hardship imposed by COVID. And we know that also challenges have not ended. We have COVID, now we have the Ukraine war, and maybe another pandemic will come. I hear COVID is resurfacing in South Africa. So dealing with finding ways to still find sustainable development, to still find sustainable financing, to still find mechanisms for green recovery is critical at any one time. It is like one thing that COVID showed us is we are taken almost unawares, and we shouldn't. COVID has happened, something else will happen. So addressing these challenges requires a coherent multi-sector approach with mutually reinforcing objectives. It's in that view that the United Nations and the government are really working together to have as many initiatives as we have, and to really have us copy as much as what PAGE is doing, because PAGE has UNEP, ILO, UNDP, UNIDO, and UNITAR, which work closely with government to provide such comprehensive and coordinated package of technical assistance, policy support, and capacity building. In my role as UN resident coordinator, for me, when I see this, I really smile. I believe it's the same with the minister, because if you are having one agency coming tell you this coming, and then their solutions do not talk to each other or do not harmonize, I'm sure at some point you feel almost a headache. But once everything is mapped, then it means even if agencies do not have a lot, but when it is brought together, it becomes big. So this is the concept here, and I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Mauritian government for its consistent dedication to transform Mauritius into an environmentally sustainable, inclusive country. I know that page has been going on for some time, and page is actually following the Mauritius national vision itself, which sets clear the path for the transition into an inclusive green economy. So I think I've said enough to say how this approach is the best one. And also the UN works, our role, because Mauritius is a member state of the UN, the way we operate is that we must follow the national plans and the national strategies. So the 10-year SME master plan for us is the guiding torch. So SMEs are encouraged to adopt in this plan sustainable production practices. So our contribution as the UN is simply to make sure that your 10-year plan is achieved and not to duplicate for other things, but it's simply to follow the marching orders of what you have said in your 10-year plan. So I will not go into the background of how this was formed, but I am sure that all of you who are partners know about it, about the background of how all this came about. But I'm happy that today we are launching these studies that are critical in our work. And just to say at this juncture that it is important for Mauritius to continue to pursue the dedications of its ambitious development agenda by looking to scale up green financing and embracing the idea of circular economy in its industrial waste management. Mauritius is setting an example to the whole world about how to win this fight against climate change. In that respect, I really want to seize this opportunity to assure you of the full support of the UN family. As you know, there's so many global meetings going on. The COP27 is now coming, the Ocean Conference is all coming. All these global initiatives should be informed by statements from Mauritius, which show a good example, not only in the sub-region, but in Africa, but also in the world. So the UN will continue to provide this support in mobilizing financial and technical resources to help Mauritius achieve its climate objectives and build a climate resilience for a green recovery. At this note, again, I want to congratulate the government and the ministry in particular for this important moment, which I'm really, really privileged to be here to witness, of the launch of the two significant reports, bringing the SMEs, improving SME access to green finance in Mauritius, and the one on industrial waste management, providing the whole structure in Mauritius. I thank you for your kind attention.
This is Christine Timotoni, UN Resident Coordinator, Ms. Jürgen Das, Mr. Eric Buscher, Mr. Kevin Balaclava, Business Mauritius, Mrs. John Bukerson, Mrs. Abdul Rahman Ahmed, Permanent Secretaries, Deputy Permanent Secretaries, staff of the Ministry, heads of Apex private sector organizations, representatives of public and private sector organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. In fact, it is with great pleasure that I am addressing you today on the occasion of the launching of two study reports conducted under the United Nations Partnership for Action on Green Economy, PAGE initiative, in collaboration with my ministry, the United Nations Environment Programme Finance Initiative, and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. These reports entitled Greening the SMEs improving SME access to green finance in Mauritius, and industrial waste management cost structure review have been prepared within a difficult context engendered by the COVID-19 pandemic, and they chart out a pathway to achieve sustainable development. Allow me at the outset to express my deep gratitude to the United Nations page partners, particularly the UNEP Finance Initiative and the UNIDO, for their strong commitment in supporting Mauritius in its endeavor to place sustainability at the centerpiece of its national development goals. I would like to point out that since Mauritius became a page partner country in 2014, it has been benefiting from various projects. These projects have undoubtedly contributed in the transition of Mauritius to become an inclusive green economy, and also have prompted the greening of our industrial sector. Ladies and gentlemen, both these reports come at an opportune time. They cover two important segments of the economy, namely SMEs and the manufacturing sector, and help to address challenges emerging in the global arena. Indeed, SMEs and manufacturing enterprises are key growth engines of our economy. The SMEs contribute around 35% of the gross value addition of the Mauritian economy and employ some 44% of the total labor force. On the other hand, the manufacturing sector accounts for 13.3% of the Mauritian gross value addition and provides employment to some 16.6% of the total labor force. These sectors are called upon to reinvent themselves, given the new emerging challenges as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and more recently the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The threat represented by challenges such as disruption in global supply chains, soaring international energy prices, rising cost of raw materials and freight has compelled operators to revisit their business models. It is firmly believed that the adoption of a green development pathway, which places much emphasis on responsible production, resource efficiency and recovery, low carbon development, good environmental stewardship, and equitable social growth are key enablers for the country to achieve a sustained economic growth. I have no doubt that these reports will help to address the challenges, define the way forward, and transform these challenges into opportunities for the business community. Government has placed the eco-transformation of the country high on its agenda, as enunciated in the Government Programme 2020-2024. This program positions sustainable development on 4 pillars, namely investing in clean energy, shifting to a cleaner and greener Mauritius, mitigating risks from climate change, and protecting our marine resources. To transform Mauritius into a green economy, government has converted the whole country into a busy development site, rehabilitating our coastlines, cleaning and embellishing our country, and promoting circular economy. In addition, for SMEs and manufacturing enterprises, several schemes and incentives have been designed to encourage them to embrace the sustainability pathway. Ladies and gentlemen, today, the launching of the 2 reports is the culmination of the hard work put in by my ministry, our UN partners, and valued stakeholders to achieve a milestone in our objective to usher Mauritius into a green economy. The first report relates to greening the SMEs, improving SME access to green finance in Mauritius, as I stated earlier. The aim of this project is to gauge the access of Mauritian SMEs to the use of green finance. An evaluation of the adoption of sustainability by SMEs was carried out, and the report provided valuable insights on applicable international good practices that could be emulated by the small and medium enterprises. I wish to point out that the report has identified access to finance as a significant barrier to investment in green business projects by SMEs, and that existing financial facilities do not cater specifically for the green needs of SMEs, startups, young and women entrepreneurs. So unfortunately. In that context, several important recommendations have been made in the report to improve SMEs' access to green finance. It has emphasized the need to address financial, regulatory, and policy barriers to encourage greening of SMEs, assist SMEs in shifting to higher value-added activities, scale up public investments, channel towards green projects, improve the integration of green finance for SMEs, conduct awareness on green business development practices and opportunities. I wish to reiterate my heartfelt gratitude to the team of UNEP Finance Initiative, led by Mr. Ruben Wambi, for its valuable support in assisting the SME division of my ministry to conduct the study and complete the report successfully. I also wish to thank the 40 small and medium enterprises which were involved in the study, the banking and financial organizations, the development partners, and governmental institutions which provided their inputs and contributions to this study. Ladies and gentlemen, the second report, Industrial Waste Management Cost Structure Review, was prepared for the Industrial Development Division of my ministry with the support of UNIDO under the PAGE initiative in collaboration with Business Mauritius. This project aims at investigating the cost burden of industrial waste management borne by manufacturing enterprises with a view to enhancing their competitiveness and promoting a circular economy through the adoption of the extended producer responsibility principle. The project was delayed due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing lockdowns in March 2020 and March 2021. However, it is noteworthy to highlight the commitments of all relevant stakeholders, the members of the project steering committee, the consultants, and UNIDO, who tried relentlessly to complete the project despite the odds of the pandemic. I would like to express my appreciation to the operators who willingly agreed to participate in the study, despite having to manage a frantic spell as a result of the pandemic. I have no doubt that the report has achieved the objectives set for the project, namely to enlighten us on the cost burden of managing industrial waste. The recommendations made in the report will act as a catalyst for the greening of the manufacturing sector, will promote circular economy in the country, and will ultimately enhance the competitiveness of enterprises. I am confident that the findings of the study will serve as invaluable inputs in the drafting of future legislations relating to the management of waste by other organizations. Here, I would like to express my gratitude to the team of UNIDO, led by Ms. Ozunimi Kiki and Ms. Helmin Egokom Agula Ambi, Dr. Simonetta Tunesi, the international consultant, Dr. Dinesh Swarup, the national consultant, Mr. Michael Abaya, and his team at Business Mauritius, who have mobilized their members to participate in the industrial waste management cost structure review study. The members of the steering committee for this project and officers of the industrial division Industrial Development Division for their valuable contribution in the preparation of the final report. Ladies and gentlemen, transmuting to a green agenda does not only imply decreasing our environmental footprint and mitigating the impact of climate change on our economy. There are other more implications. Adopting a green agenda will be the gateway to more sustainability and resilience of our enterprises as well as an additional impetus to enterprises to create new value chains, more innovative and creative solutions, higher level of investment in new technologies, new green jobs, and more wealth for the economy. Both reports will be useful guides for policymakers as well as for operators in the private sector in fostering a culture of responsible production and sustainability to further advance the efforts of the government to transform Mauritius into a green economy. The reports have already flagged the constraints of operators and have indicated the way forward. Here, I would like to appeal to the enterprises to study these reports and ponder and act on the implementation of the recommendations which relate to them. My ministry, for its part, will ensure as soon as possible the development of a roadmap and an action plan to scale up green financing for SMEs as recommended in the SME Access to Green Finance Report. It will also ensure that the recommendations of the Industrial Waste Management Structure Review Report are properly disseminated among all our stakeholders. Each one of us stands to gain in the realization of the recommendations of the report. The launching of the two reports bears testimony to the remarkable effort being made by my ministry to reach the objectives spelled out in the Government Programme 2020-2024. I can affirm that I am deeply involved in the crusade to make Mauritius a clean, safe, and a green country. I am equally concerned with the survival and the competitiveness of our enterprises, which have been instrumental in keeping the economy afloat during the difficult times we have witnessed with the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. I am proud to belong to a generation of policymakers that are setting the base for a sustainable and green Mauritius. I have no doubt that this undertaking will result later into a legacy, which will be inherited by the generations to come. My ministry is leaving no stone unturned to ensure the right economic, environmental, and social equilibrium that will allow businesses to flourish within the sustainable framework. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I wish to reiterate my sincere gratitude to the United Nations page partners, UNEP Finance Initiative, and UNIDO for their assistance in the successful implementation of the two projects. My heartfelt thanks to all public and private stakeholders for their valued collaboration and for the realization of these two reports. I look forward to more future fruitful collaboration with our stakeholders as well as our page partners. We need to persevere in our endeavor in the support of international partners such as the United Nations agencies is more than ever crucial. Thank you for attention.